Sorry about that, guys. Let's talk about why we're here. Thanks for tuning in. And I know everyone's schedule is super tight, so we appreciate you taking the time to join us for the session here. I'm your host today. My name is Lee Eldridge. I'm a researcher and an educator here at Toronto Metropolitan University, and of course, a board member on the OPIA, the Ontario Print and Imaging Association. So whether you're joining us from Ontario or anywhere else through our various partner organizations across the country, thank you and welcome. And we've got a great session here today with a fantastic Joanne Gore, who we were just chatting with a little bit before the session started. Joanne is an author, she's a marketer, she's a consultant through her company, Joanne Gore Communications, and she's bringing this session actually fresh up off of her appearance at D-Scoop just a few months ago in Colorado, was it? Is that?
Was.
Yeah,
It was in
I missed
Colorado.
it here, but it's always a good time at
Amazing.
D-Scoop. So thank you for joining us. I usually start these off with a brief land acknowledgement, like the one shown on screen. And land acknowledgements are kind of inspired by the calls to action recommended by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission back in 2015. And I know there's a lot of mixed kind of opinion about that, but they're meant to be a kind of first step towards recognizing and honoring that the original occupants of the place and the descendants who live and work amongst us today. Now, 2025 marks 10 years from when the 94 calls to action were kind of laid out by that commission. And in that time, only 15 of the 94 recommendations have actually been completed, which is a pretty awful track record for any completion, to be honest. 17 of them haven't even been started yet. So when we talk about it like that, having a short land acknowledgement seems like the least we can do here to help, with that process. If that's something you're more interested in learning more about, I highly recommend searching for a website called Beyond 94. This is a CBC project that provides kind of status reports on where those individual calls to action, like the inclusion of land acknowledgements at the beginning of public events like this, how they're progressing and where we're moving from. Now, I do want to also give a quick shout out that PrintPulse Live, this series of webinars, is of course managed and arranged by the Ontario Printing and Imaging Association, which really works to empower the print and graphic communication industry as a whole, and is a foundational member of the national organization, the Canadian Print Industries Association. So whether we're advocating for the print industry with government, as we've been doing a lot of work lately, or providing tools and resources and training for industry, the OPIA really works to improve the conditions for everyone working in the print and allied industries. And with that, I'm going to step aside and I'm going to let Joanne take over and get into the meat of the session today, all about undoing some of that confusion that often exists in within our organizations, and helping give our employees and our representatives a unified voice, and how that can impact our bottom line at the end of the day.
Thank you, Lee. I don't really know how I can top that intro, but I will do my best. I want to thank the OPIA for inviting me to PrintPulse webinar today, and thank you to everybody who has shown up and showing your support. And I actually recognize a lot of the names, though I don't see too many faces, but that's okay. We'll see if we can get some of you to show your smiles a little bit. I got a few things going on in the background. So are we ready to buckle up? So yes, this is a presentation that I did give at D-Scoop recently back in March. I've made a couple of little changes. So much has changed in the world of AI and other facets, but for the most part, it's the same presentation. So if there was anybody here who was at D-Scoop and you happen to attend my session, I apologize in advance. But yes, we are going to talk about how a messaging playbook unified not just one company, many companies, and helps close more deals. I'm also going to be showing you a physical playbook, and Lee was kind enough to take some pictures because we don't quite trust my Vanna White skills. So you've all been warned. So yes, I am the president and chief strategist at Joanne Gore Communications. We're a full service B2B marketing agency, and we are all on a mission to help the print industry sell more print. I, of course, am a print industry advocate. I I'm a LinkedIn early adopter. You'll hear me talking about LinkedIn. If you're not following me on LinkedIn, please, please, please connect. I love to connect with everybody, especially in Ontario. Well, and Quebec. I have some fondness for Quebec. It's where I was born and raised. I am a mom of 5. I am a self-professed geekette. I wrote a book, Thriving in Chaos, Lessons Learned as a Corporate Marketer. Please head to Amazon and available on Kindle, paperback or hardcover. And I am a volunteer. I serve on the board of Girls Who Print Canada as the regional, regional director for Girls Who Print Canada. I'm on the CXMPA Professionals Association. That's the Customer Experience Management Professionals Association. If anybody here is familiar with the good old days of Explore, a lot of us now are headed over at CXMPA now. And Print Mastermind, I am an educator over there. A lot of the presentations I give are distilled into actual trainings and workshops. So if you're ever interested in any of that, head on over to Print Mastermind and I can hook you up because I know a guy. All right. Oh yeah, I won a bunch of awards, but we can skip that. All right. Today we're going to get real. We're going to have real world use cases. We're going to talk about how a messaging playbook works in the messiness of real teams, and a real printed example that you can watch me flip through. Of course, when I was presenting live, I was able to hand them out. So we're just going to have to pretend. So I want you all to sort of close your eyes, and I can't tell if you are, 1, because you're on another screen, and 2, because you're kind of all hiding. But I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine that you are walking onto the trade show floor. And you stop at a booth, and we've all done this before. Yeah, there's the booths we know, and then there's the ones you kind of walk by, and you're like, you're not sure if you should go in, and you're kind of looking at the sign, and you're kind of looking at their banner stands, and you hear what's going on, and somebody says, can I help you? And they give you a pitch. And you meet with them and you have a conversation. You're like, oh, they're interesting. And then you actually look them up in the show guide. And what's written in the show guide doesn't really match what was being said to you in the booth. So then you check their website, and that's also a different story. It doesn't seem to be saying the same thing. You can go further and further. You can go onto their LinkedIn page. You can look at other areas. But typically when you're at a show, those are your 3 key areas that you're going to check. You're going to check the booth. You're going to check their description in the conference guide. And you may or may not check their website. That's just a small touch of what happens when somebody is exposed to multiple messages in a relatively short span of time, or even a long span, and they don't quite jive. There's no cohesiveness. So you actually end up not sure if they can help you, not sure what it is they do, or what it costs, or where it fits in, or what's involved. You don't have a clear picture, and you don't walk away feeling, oh, I'm ready to work with these people. And ultimately, that's kind of the story I want you to think about, and think about your own companies and your own messages. And right away, is your LinkedIn saying the same thing as your website? Is that saying the same thing as your collateral? Are your presentations maybe a little dusty? And we're going to talk about these, but I want you to think of all of the different places in your company, in your organization, where your message is being told, and where it may or may not be told the same way, or more importantly, the wrong way. All right, so that's my intro to what we're going to be talking about. Hopefully that's what you're here for. So we're gonna get ready. So the bottom line is, when your message shows up the same way everywhere, that's when you can stop leaking leads, resources, time, and money. So instead of wondering, well, we're getting bad leads, or we're getting no leads, or we're chasing the wrong leads, a lot of it just comes down to not telling the right story to the right people at the right time in the right channels. All right. I hope the money, the little money thing got a little bit of attention there, because fragmented messaging costs money. That's just a reality. Most companies don't have a lead gen problem. I speak to companies all day long, software companies, OEMs, print service providers, packaging, it doesn't matter. Inevitably, one of the things they're complaining about, and I'm sure you've heard it or have said it yourselves, we need more leads. Our lead gen is not working. It's not the lead gen system that's typically the problem. What's typically the problem is that the messaging is not aligned, as I mentioned, across all those different channels. Even within your company, different departments are talking differently about the same thing because they each have different areas that they are most focused on. Leadership is going to talk about vision and history. They're not going to get into the weeds of features and specs. That's what sales does. Sales talks features, they talk functions, they talk speeds and feeds. Marketing, we talk campaigns, we talk about trends, we talk about our audiences, our ICP, our ideal customer profile. And by the way, if I throw out jargon, I apologize in advance. I will try and explain it as I go. But if something slips out, just head to the chat, and when I eventually stop talking, I'll answer unless somebody else can answer. And of course, operations talks, capability, and process. They all have a different point of concern. They are all measured in their roles based on these different truths. When they are making business buying decisions, these are the hats they're wearing. And everybody has to remember that, because when you're talking to somebody in that leadership role, you're not going to be sharing the same value props as somebody in operations. And again, that's where a lot of companies get tripped up, because they say the same thing everywhere. I think I saw Heather here on the call. Heather, it's the same as if somebody said the exact same resume to every single job that they applied to, the exact same cover letter. They didn't tailor it to the job requirements or the skills. It was just generic across the board. Well, what happens? They don't get called. They might not get interviewed. They might not get called back for an interview, or they're just sending out resumes into a bottomless pit and not understanding why. So we as an industry are notorious for talking about the terms that we understand and matter to us. We talk about inkjet and bindery and graphics and printing and finishing and publishing and impressions and clicks and bleeds and chokes. And, you know, we can sound quite, I forget what the word is right now, but, you know, not very nice people when we get into the lexicon of the print industry. We're almost barbaric. But the reality is it's a melting pot of terms that the average print buyer really doesn't know and really doesn't care. What they care about is what matters to them. All right. So I want you to start to think about that, because it's going to show up in the case study that I'm going to be sharing with you in a little bit. You can invest in tech, you can invest in sales, and you can invest in events. But if your message changes from touch point to touch point, prospects will just see you as just another insert name here. Oh, they're just another, what can I think of that's not going to? They're just another Coca-Cola. They're not that, no, that wouldn't be a bad thing, but I think you get what I'm trying to get here. You don't want to be just another printer, or they're just another quick copy place. They're just another copy shop. that's not what you want to hear, or that's not it, right? I don't think anybody wants to know what that is. So you've been very patient with me as I've introduced the topic and the content for this session, but now let's get down to the meat of what this is all about, and that's Playbook. And I'm often asked, well, what the is a messaging playbook? And I asked, it's again different when it's live because I can say show of hands, but I want you all now to go hit the like button if you feel that your company has a messaging playbook that you can draw from. And I'm gonna look over to my side now to see. Oh, I see X. Lee put an X. How did you do that? I mean, one. I see. Don't show me because I'll just break it. But a like or a thumbs up or a thumbs down or an X if you have a messaging playbook that you feel will help you tell your company story. I'm not seeing anything. Alrighty. So how many feel oh, I see one thumbs up. Yay. All right. Here's my next question. When you think messaging playbook, how many pages would you expect that messaging playbook to be? So I'm going to ask you to head into the chat and put a number in the chat of how many pages you would expect a typical messaging playbook would have. So I want to see some numbers in there. I am looking. I'm holding you all hostage. Lee is saying 20 to 30. Okay, 18. 3.5. I want to know what the half page is. Less than 5. Anybody else want to chime in? I'm seeing 10, 5, 4. Are you going to find that? Oh, I teased that on the cover slide. All right, so would it surprise you to learn that the messaging playbooks that we create, that I'm going to be talking about today, on average start at 50 pages and some have been north of 80 pages long? Do I hear gasps and shock and oh my God? Yes, I'm not lying. I will show you. Let's see what the next one is before I go all that white on you. Okay, I'm going to go back for a second. So you guys can still see me, right? So this is the messaging playbook that I'm talking about. You can see it's got some, a bit of a page count. It's a little bit more than 3.5, Dave. It was Surlock's found, as you can see, and we actually embellished the cover, which again, you'll see some picture. I'm not doing too bad today, Lee, on my Vanna White there. So Christine Yardley from Print Panther, if you're in the audience, thank you. You made these really come to life. So we're going to be flipping through those during here. So yeah, yes, at least you can bind that. Yes, you can. A messaging playbook is your single source of truth. You shouldn't have to be chasing down presentations. You shouldn't have to be going through RFPs. You shouldn't have to be looking through old press releases to find your about section or going to your LinkedIn page. The reality is all of those places should have the same message. The reality is also they likely don't, which means depending on which one you're choosing to use, you have a 1 in X chance of getting it right and getting it wrong. So I like to focus. I think it's very important to truly understand who you help, how you help, and why it matters. This comes back to what we were talking about again in the pre-show, a little bit around that psychology of really truly understanding who is buying from you. Now, we talked about some of the different roles, the leader versus ops versus marketing versus sales. This is where all of that knowledge comes to play. Who is going to buy the most from you in the shortest amount of time and spend the most amount of money? That's who you want to go after. Yes, you can say yes to other projects, but don't be chasing them. Chase that quickest time to money. Chase your most likely chance of success. Chase the people who you know you can help, who you know how you help, and who you know why it matters. I don't know if that was great English right there, but you know why it matters to them. If you go back to that chart I showed of what matters to sort of leadership, vision, future, vision and mission, where sales is features. If you're selling to a salesperson, don't be selling them all woo-hoo stuff. They want the speeds, the feeds, the facts. That's it. If you're selling to operations, they're going to want to know uptime, security, compliance. So you're not going to be talking about how many sheets are going through a press. You're going to be talking about the fact that their information is secure. So understanding these various audiences are what's going to make it possible for you to take your motherhood messaging, your main story, and then laser point it towards that ICP, that ideal customer profile, and get the story in front, get that right story in front of the right person when they're ready to make a buying decision. Consistency creates comprehension. Comprehension creates trust. Trust creates conversations. Conversations create revenue. That's the money shot. You get those conversations going, you get that buyer engaged and involved, you're going to start to see the revenue coming in. So I'm going to ask again for show of hands or likes, because I'm going to ask you all 3 questions. Who here within your company has more than one person talking to the customer? I'm going to say yes. Yes. Oh, Lee's getting fancy with the check marks. Got Heather, Matthew. A few people have multiple people. Ooh, I got Cloud saying that. Yes. All right. So more than one person within your company is talking to the customer. I hope you're already starting to wonder, uh-oh, what are they saying? How many here have had to rewrite the same thing multiple times? Think about what I was talking about. Presentations, RFPs, emails to clients, emails to prospects. Show me the likes, show me the hands up if you have had to rewrite the same thing or go searching for the same thing multiple times because you know you wrote it once and it was great, so I want to go find it. Or I can't find it, so I have to try and remember what I wrote. Lee, you're killing me with this. You're going to have to give us a tutorial when this is done. And then finally, the last question, and this is the one I am most interested in really learning. How many here have used, tried, or are currently using AI to generate content? Any kind of content, email, social media, contracts, to review contracts, to review RFPs, to create RFPs. Those of you who are putting your thumbs up, if you can either put in the chat or just say briefly, what type of content are you generating using AI? I'm just going to pull 3 people, and I don't remember who threw hands up, so I might just pick people. Lee, I know you had all kinds of like flappy things going on. So what kind of content are you generating with? Oh, Lee put emails, press releases. Yes, press releases, exactly. Who else wants to share how they're using content? AI to create content. Have you used AI to create presentations? Lee's nodding his head. See, that's what happens when you show your face. Drafted them. Drafts. Okay, I'm glad you're saying assisting with drafts, because that's going to get into the next area that I get into. Product specs, descriptions, email, sell sheets, marketing collateral. Perfect. Brilliant. Love it. So yeah, AI is being used a lot. So that begs the question, what are you feeding AI in order to generate the output? And I want to leave you that with a second, right? What are you feeding AI to generate the output that you're looking for? Are you saying, I want a blog? Or who can I pick on? Marlene. She's like, dang it. Why did I have to put that into the chat? Marlene, if you don't mind, can you share a little bit of how do you prompt your AI? And if you're shy, that's okay. Prompts generated by another AI. Okay, you're off the hook. Matt, which AI are you using to generate your other prompts? Because I do that too, by the way, and we are going to talk about it. Oh, MS and chat. Okay, so chat's prompting for which AI? Or are you using Microsoft? What's Microsoft? Is it Bing? For chat? Copilot. Okay, so you're basically playing with Copilot and chat. Okay, cool. Good to know. I'm gonna guess that's probably a lot of the folks here, or maybe none. This is gonna be interesting as we get down a little further. So the elephant in the room here is the AI slop, and why this got urgent, and more urgent. AI is amazing at speed and scale. You can create, 50 blogs in 5 minutes. You really can. The question is, what is the quality of those blogs? And more importantly, are they relevant? And will they attract and engage and convert your prospects as they go through that pipeline, that opportunity pipeline? AI is dependent on the inputs, as we just talked about. If you don't give it direction, it will fill the gaps with language. But the language will just be, I don't know, I'm sure some of you have seen this like repetitive gobbledygook of it saying the same thing 4 different ways in 3 different paragraphs. And at first glance, you feel like you've really read this really smart, intelligent document, when really you've just read the same paragraph 6 times. And if you pay attention to what comes out when it's not prompted with the right information, you'll start to notice it. It's some of those things you can't unsee once you've seen it. So I'm hoping to help you all unsee a whole bunch of stuff today. That language, so it lacks focus. It lacks differentiation, right? The who do you help, how, why does it matter? What makes you different and not just another copy shop? And it lacks intent. It's not human. It can't be human. It needs a human being to help finesse it, to help fine tune it. If you just go with what it gives you, you end up with content that's it's generic, it drifts off message, sometimes it hallucinates, but at the end of the day, it's eroding trust. So that's what I call AI slop. And the cost is way more than cringe. The cost is your pipeline. So when you have a messaging playbook, when you have a consistent story that is unique to you, that has value props unique to you, then you are no longer paying the AI slop tax, as I call it, and you are actually creating relevant, engaging content using AI. So there are ways to train it, and every day there are more and more opportunities. I think Carol's on the call here. Carol works over at GGC, and I know that she's been working on a whole bunch of AI solutions and automations behind the scenes to help the whole team reduce a lot of that AI friction that we are all just really sick of seeing. So I've already teased you with the Gray Elephants playbook, and Lee, this is that wonderful shot that you took of the cover. Again, we're capturing that embellishment here, trying to capture the depth. So if let's see, this is where the Vanna White falls apart. See if I do it this way. You're laughing, Lee. You're not allowed to laugh. I'm an old lady. So here, I don't know how people do this. We do this. There we go. So what you're seeing here are all the various pages. They're not blank, ladies and gentlemen. They are filled with words on both sides. I didn't, we're not faking it and doing single-sided either. And it's broken into different sections, from notes to the reader, to talking intros, to what that target audience is, the buyer roles and responsibilities. I wish you could see this with me. The about sections, we got long, we got shorter, we got medium, we got shortest. We even created for, oh, see, Zoom thinks I raised my hand because I raised the book. And then we do trade show listings, because everybody always forgets to put their booth number. We have the differentiators, who it helps, what it does, why it matters. And then we also have a whole section dedicated to problems and solutions. Those are really the conversation starters. They are the objection handling. That's what sales really loves. So again, when people hear messaging, they typically think tagline. But when in reality, it's well, I've put 6 things. It's way more than 6 things. It's your core positioning. So I pulled out what we have in the gray elephant just for their case. And again, there's nothing private here. I don't want you thinking, oh no, that she's going to share our messaging playbook, because guess what? All of this messaging is on their website. It's on their content. It's on their collateral. It's in their white papers. There's nothing here that is not publicly facing. So core positioning, we help you print more labels and packaging more profitably. Talk tracks by scenario. So for them, it was for short run printers, for long run printers shifting to short runs, and for regulated environments. Those were the 3 key areas. Who it's for, who it's not for, what good looks like. Choose us if, don't choose us if. Be willing to walk away from the business, or be willing to show up front. If this is you, we're not a good fit, but we can help you find somebody if that's the case. But, let's not waste each other's time. We talk about the buyer roles and what each cares about: owner, production, process improvement, graphics and pre-press, and compliance. I already talked about the problem and solution narratives. They're written in the customer's language, not the internal language. Again, we talked about the buzzwords, especially in the print industry. Lee, we talked a little bit about this again in the pre-show. It's important that we speak the language of the people we're hoping to get their business from whom we're hoping to get their business. That's better English. Lee is nodding to that. But we can't know what their language is if we don't know who they are. So, I joked about it, but you almost have to be like an actor. You have to put yourself in the role, in the clothes, in the suit, in the mindset of the person that you're talking to, because you have to try and hear what you're saying the way they're hearing it. So there's a lot of psychology that goes into it. Again, the more you know, the more you can fine tune what that story is and how it's going to turn that prospect who's sort of just looking into somebody who's ready to raise their hand and say, I want to talk to a salesperson. Most importantly, it has that approved about boilerplate in a variety of lengths. So you never have to figure out, well, how am I going to say this in 100 words? Or how am I going to say this in 250 words? Again, the idea is not to reinvent the wheel each time. It's to use the language the way it was written. And again, there's a science behind that, because it takes at least 10 touches, and a touch meaning you saw something, you heard something, you read something, you may have touched something, you smelled something, but whatever it is, it has to happen 10 times before your brain even starts to recognize that it's seen it once. So if every time you're saying who you are and who you help and why it matters, and you're changing it each time because you think they're sick of hearing it, nah, because the reality is they've probably not heard it 10 times. You might have heard it 110 times, doesn't matter. You just need to keep going down that path. By the time they've heard it 10 times is the time that now they're having a conversation with you for the first time. So always remember how important those 10 touches are. All right, we are back. Another image from Lee. I wanted to make sure that we captured all your great photography, Lee, and emphasized again, no, this is not 3.5 pages or 8 pages. The gray elephant is, I don't know if we have a page count on it. We don't. If I'm not mistaken, it's like 63 or 64 pages, something like that. So the before and after moment, here's what happens before a playbook. Everybody has great ideas. Everybody explains the company in their own way. Hopefully some of you are nodding your heads at this. The customer hears multiple message. Confusion shows up as ghosting. And I don't mean the print term ghosting. I mean when you're trying to get back in touch and suddenly they've ghosted you, or they're price shopping, or they're going with somebody else, or they've decided, maybe they decided to bring it in internally. The fix isn't to write better copy, it's getting everyone using that same source of truth. Because one out of however many people are telling this story might be doing a great job. Figure out what that is. Figure out how that's happening. When your message is consistent, your marketing stops being activity and it starts driving momentum. It starts really attracting more of the right marketing and sales qualified leads. It's really helping those prospects go from prospect to customer to recommender or a reference, which again, it doesn't stop once they're a customer. You still have to keep that relationship going. All right, I promised you some case studies. Here's where you're going to get them. The first one is Sun Print Solutions. They're a full service print provider out of Utah. They do commercial print, direct mail, pretty much the whole gamut. After we did their case study, and there's a QR code here, you are welcome to scan it and download the case, like their case, this actual case study, which is the ROI messaging playbook. I pulled out some of the quotes from them because they were all in different departments, and I wanted to show you how each department uses the playbook. It is pretty clear and obvious how sales or marketing can use it because we create so much content and are in front of so many people. But what about the other departments? So the CFO has it bookmarked to open automatically when I start my day. It motivates me to stay focused and start each conversation on message. That's the CFO. The CEO, I feel like JGC handed us a life vest, and I could never imagine working without it again. Project manager, when I have a business problem, I know I will find the solution in the messaging playbook. And finally, the biz dev manager, it keeps us focused. Our customers are clear on how we help them, and it's helped us close more deals. Okay. So yeah, if you haven't already, please scan the QR code. So all of this, great. How is this going to help you? Here are 3 practical next steps that you can take right now. Step 1, audit your messaging seams. You know, things are falling apart at the seams. How tight are they? Pick 3 touch points. I've listed 3 here. I've rattled off a whole bunch throughout this call. But the 3 touch points I chose are your homepage, a sales deck, and your last 5 LinkedIn posts or emails if you're not on LinkedIn. Do they tell the same story in the same language? And if not, your buyer is doing extra work. Lee, are we going to be sharing this presentation with everybody? Do you know after?
Yeah, we definitely can.
Okay, cool. For those who want it, of course.
Yeah.
They can reach out. Yeah, if you want it, yeah, just reach out. I'll put my details in there somewhere. You can
That's right. We'll get it posted up on the OPIA website and follow up with that as well.
Perfect. Okay, so that was step 1. Let's check the seams. Then you're going to create just one page of approved language. You, not AI. AI is not going to do this. You are going to do this. Your core positioning statement. Your top 3 customer problems. Your differentiators. What makes you different from being just another copy shop? 3 proof points and 2 calls to action. So, and a partridge in a pear tree. But where, what I'm getting at here is your differentiators are yours. And how one of the best ways to look for those differentiators are the proof points. For example, and I, thankfully, I can't really see many of you. Some of you might be hanging your head down in shame. I won't know. But I've seen on more than probably 50 websites, printer websites, white glove treatment. We have the best, latest, and greatest state-of-the-art equipment. No job is too big or too small. We offer 24/7 round-the-clock service. I think I said white glove. Yeah, no, we're open 24/7. No job is too big or too small. We've been in the business forever. We have the latest equipment. Lather, rinse, repeat. If you have a proof point that explains white glove treatment, give me an example of when you offered white glove treatment and how that helped your customer. Now, yes, you can say we offer white glove treatment like everybody else, but only you have the story that's yours that proves it. That's how you start to differentiate. So when you think about your core positioning statement, who do you help? How do you help? Why does it matter? And then the top 3 problems that you address, your differentiators are how you've addressed those problems. Your proof points are the outcomes. Your calls to action are what do you want somebody to do next? That's the seed of a playbook. And if that sounds hard, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's why we do it day in and day out. We love doing it. Yeah, it's not easy. But once you have it done, it becomes the foundation, that single source of truth. And guess what? You never have to spend your time again chasing down the answers to those questions. More importantly, everybody agrees on what they are. You use the playbook to control AI, not the other way around. And that's why I said, don't have AI do the exercise for you. You will feed the final playbook into AI, and so that it can learn your language, your voice, your lexicon, your words, your stories, what matters to you, your customers. Then it can start to write content like blogs and LinkedIn posts. Tell it to only use the approved blocks, review, revise, refine, and stop the slop. That's how you're going to do it. Now, a messaging playbook is not one and done. It's a living, breathing document. You're going to introduce new solutions, new services, bring on new equipment, go after new vertical markets. You're constantly going to be feeding your playbook and adding to those 60 plus pages. And that's okay, because after you've pinpointed that first quickest time to money, you want to be able to go to the next one and the next one and the next one. And once you've done it once, once you've done it twice, it becomes a lot easier to do it. Here's the bottom line. If your team can't tell the same story, prospects won't trust the one that they hear. And with that, I think I am right on time here to open it up for questions. Again, love the QR codes. You can scan it and get more information on JGC. We will help you stretch your marketing dollars, attract a new generation of business, and pinpoint that quickest time to money with programs that generate awareness, engagement, and growth. And we are on a mission to help the print industry sell more print.
Thank you so much, Joanne. So, I mean, you outlined 3 sort of first action steps. If I am trying to take that first step, what would your go-to be? What would your like what is the very first thing you would do or start writing down? Would I start talking to my sales team? Would I start where? How? What? Why? Where am I?
The very first place to start, and yes, you're right, you're going to have to talk to everybody. You're going to have to talk to the people who are in the front lines, the CSRs, the project managers, the one who are dealing with the customers day in and day out. You're going to have to talk to your sales team. How did you get the sale? Did you have a hunter and did you have a closer? Did you have two people on the account? And now you have the account manager. So that's three people on the account. Each one of those are dealing with different people as well. But the very, very first place that I always start is in the CRM, because that's really where you can see, and hopefully everybody here has a CRM where they are tracking, not just, and I don't just mean job tickets, I mean customer intelligence. Not, you've got bare bones. You know, how long did it take from the time this person was a lead to the time they closed? How many touch points did it take? Where did we meet them first? Everyone's going to say, oh, trade show. Was it a trade show? Did they come to the trade show first? Or had they heard of us and then saw us at the trade show? And you won't always get the right answer, but really understanding where that lead thinks they first saw you. Remember, 10 touch points. So it's going to be anywhere within those 10 touches. Where they think they first saw you is where they're going to remember seeing you next. So if they think they saw you on LinkedIn first, even though you met them at a trade show, guess what? LinkedIn is going to be where you will communicate with them and people like them as sort of a trial channel. The CRM will also tell you where you're making money, where you're losing money, which customers you should fire, because while maybe they generate tons of revenue, they also suck your business dry. And everybody has one of those clients. I don't care what business you're in. There's always a client where you keep they pay on time and they yes, but the job's always late, or there's always a panic, or there's always something missing, or you have to run overtime, whatever it is. When the morale starts to tank as soon as that customer's name pops up. And those are hard decisions to make, and I'm not saying to make them lightly, but when you're looking at that in your CRM, this sort of, where are you making money? Where am I losing money? Where have there been blips that I can't even explain? Can I replicate those blips? Like all of a sudden we spiked on LinkedIn, or we suddenly got, our phone was ringing off the hook for 2 days solid. What happened? What caused that? Can you recreate it? Most of that should live in your CRM. So that's a very long way of answering your question, Lee.
And when you're, I mean, you talked a lot about how, you need to kind of identify those ideal customers, the ones that are going to be the most impactful to your business at the end of the day, so you can target them. And I think that makes complete sense. When you're building out a brand book, and I don't mean to dominate questions. If you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll get to your questions as well. But if you're building the brand book, how would you focus on a few of those and kind of build it out around those ideal customer scenarios, or what would be your approach to kind of systematizing
Sure.
that?
In fact, I'm going to use this playbook to show you how we did it for the gray elephant. I'm gonna talk the talk here. So what we did it a couple of different ways. I don't know if you can see it. We broke down the verticals based on the industry, because we recognized that there were very specific verticals. Okay. We also aligned the messaging to the vertical. So if they were wine and spirits, we knew that the messaging had to focus around regulated messaging, because that matters most to them. Yeah. Then we had the matrix for buyer roles and responsibilities. So again, I don't know if you can, I'm trying to hold this up straight. But in this one, what we're doing is we've got the job title. So for example, owner, general manager, kind of like what I went through here, what leadership is interested in, what sales is interested in. So for example, an owner or general manager is going to care about productivity and profitability. So the story to them was it's a new way to print more labels and packaging more profitably, reduce material costs, optimize labor, impress time, and streamline the process. That speaks to their need. But if we're talking to a production manager, they're focused on completing the job correctly and efficiently and within budget. They're focused on labor costs. So the message to them is dramatically reduce press refitting time by automatically sequencing print jobs for the day based on the complexity of each job and the plates you already have on the press. Different message, same story, tailored to the buyer.
Yeah, so it's not just customer and vertical, it's all the way down to the role on top of that. So you end up this kind of matrix of like, hey, here are our big customers and or customer types, and then within that, depending who we're talking to.
Exactly. And then in this case, we also got into the types of run because we recognize that by the way, if I didn't make it clear, the gray elephant is automation software for the flexo label and packaging industry. So if you're doing flexo label and packaging, I know a guy. So, so for them, you're talking about the run types, the long types, printers who used to do short are now doing long, long are doing short. And then you put compliance on top of, regulated industries on top of that. It becomes a very interesting matrix. Again, that's why it's like 60 pages long.
Right.
Because
and
there's
like said,
so many ways
building it over time as you run into new roles and new scenarios.
And new problems and solutions. Like I said, like problem and solutions are really, again, it's kind of hard to see here, but, help, we have a problem. And then we pull out all of the messaging that relate. We don't just make up the answer. We take the answer from the messaging to make sure it's always consistent. And we have at least 15 to 20 problems and solutions. And every time, so that again, it's that objection. Hey, somebody, how do I answer this question? You got a question that's not in here? Tell us and let's come up with the answer together. So we're always trying to sort of get ahead of the game there.
And I imagine this would also really help then with change management and transitions as new employees join or old employees retire or leave. You have that kind of reference document that you can point people back to, capturing some of that collective kind of business intelligence that lives in your employees' heads but isn't necessarily there for a new employee.
Yeah, HR loves the messaging playbooks for a couple of reasons. One, nobody ever remembers HR. And HR is the one putting all the ads. Heather's probably laughing now, but they're putting all the ads well, I'm dating myself now, but where you have to say, why work for this company? And I guarantee you that most of those why work for this company are like 3 generations old. I remember seeing it like when I was in corporate and I would see it. I'm like, oh my God, where did this come from? Get rid of this now. This is what you should be saying. Well, nobody told us. That's right. Nobody ever tells anything to HR when it relates to messaging or positioning or branding. Because why? Nobody realizes you could be standing in line at the grocery store and you're going to bump into somebody and they're going to go, oh, hi, nice to meet you. Hi, yeah. So what do you do? Oh, I'm in the print industry. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. But if you say, we create physical experiences from your brand. Again, just making this up. What does that mean? How do you do that? Oh, let me tell you how we do that. Now you've opened up the door to a conversation. And what happens? Conversation leads to conversion. You remember that slide from, almost an hour ago. So I'm trying to remember the question. Oh, HR loves it because now they can pull out the why work for us. They love it for new hires, for onboarding. They can give them the playbook and learn all about our company. It's much easier to onboard people when you have that reference at any point in time that you can go after.
I have to add a random grocery store conversation target audience to your matrix though for that to make
exactly.
sure. Martin's got a question slash comment in the chat here. Love your playbook concept. One thing I'd like to point out is that the messaging has to also be completely understood by the entire team in the print shop. Your thoughts?
I agree. The messaging has to resonate and be able to be told. You're telling a story. I'm saying messaging. You're telling the company's story, and everybody has to be able to tell the story without it turning into a really bad case of broken telephone. So, we want to, each of us is going to put a slightly different spin when we're telling this story. Absolutely. But as long as we don't stray so far off the reserve that we're not even in the same stratosphere anymore, we want to keep it tight. But yes, we worked with one company, once the messaging playbook was done, they actually printed out sort of like little mini versions, 8.5, 5.5 versions of them, and handed them out to every single person in the company. And they had like a company meeting around it and shared it. It all comes from the top down. As long as there's buy-in and everybody's enthusiastic and passionate about it, it will get adopted and adapted for everybody.
That's fantastic. And that's, Dave and Heather echoing down in the chat that, enthusiasm sells, and buy-in from employees is important. We are coming up to the hour, and I know people have other meetings, other things, other projects they need to get to. Please, connect with Joanne on LinkedIn. Check out her website, joannegorecommunications.com. Check out her book. I've read it, Not AI Slop.
Thank you. There are a couple of typos in there. Oops.
You can order it from Amazon, or can they get it through your website as well?
Not anymore. We used to, but if you want, you can hit me up and I'll get you going. But it's faster, honestly, with Canada Post. It's faster going.
It's faster from out. Heather says, typos are human. That's how we know it's not AI, the typos.
Exactly. Oh, trust me. This is very human.
If you like what we're doing with this series and you want to support the OPIA directly, consider becoming a member. We're always welcoming new members, and this year we have a 50% reduction in membership fees for the first year. You can find more about the OPIA and what we do and membership at ontarioprinting.org. I also want to just take a quick moment before we wrap up to give a preview of our next month's session coming up at the end of May, called What Real Automation Deployment Looks Like in Print, with Michael, who is on the call today. It's really easy to talk about what automation could do, but Michael and Mark at Significance, they have really made an art of turning that potential into working execution inside a business. So we've invited them to come and share some of their knowledge, some of their background, and focus on lessons they've learned from industry through real-world deployment experience, including change management challenges, common operational barriers, and sort of the practical realities that graphic and print companies should understand to help turn their investments into lasting impact. It's going to be a really great session, so keep an eye out for registration details. We will be putting it up on LinkedIn and everything else, and would love to have you join us for that one. Obviously, we try to run these every month, and we are always looking for great topics, great speakers. If you know someone, reach out. If you have something that you'd really love us to try to find a good speaker on, send us an email, introduce yourself, let us know what has been missing from the kind of training and webinars and sessions, and we will do what we can to find out.
I'm just sticking stuff in the
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, we'll post out the slide deck and Joanne's contact information so that if you missed it in the call today, that you're able to connect with her. And thank you so much for joining. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their week. And thank you so much, Joanne, for a great session.
Thank you. It was great to sort of see everybody, and looking forward to more.
If you need, I'll do a LinkedIn how to make funny things appear in the chat webinar.
I found, you know what? LinkedIn is always Zoom is changing their reactions all the time. So I went into the reactions, and now I saw the X and everything there, and I'm like, I know where he did it now.
You could even bring in custom ones. You can be like, you were talking about ghosts, so we can do some ghost here coming up on the.
That's so cool.
Lots of fun stuff. Thanks everyone. Have a great
Oh,
week,
that's
and thanks,
awesome.
Joanne. Take care.
Bye, everybody.